Hey guys, Sko here. In this video, I'm going to answer the which tank is best for raiding question. Keep in mind that this is an opinion piece, so it's okay to agree or disagree. And I know we're quite a few weeks into Legion now, and this video is perhaps a bit late, but I still get asked this question so many times on stream each day, so I thought it would be great to share my thoughts and give you guys some brief detail. Before getting into it, I want to remind you guys that all tanks should be viable, and that strict raid compositions or class choices, they're only really required if your guild or raid is pushing for the absolute fast or top kills in the upcoming raid tier. So, getting into it, rather than list the tanks from number 6 up to number 1, I am instead going to split them into 3 tiers. Okay, so let's jump into the bottom tier, guys. We have the Demon Hunter. Demon Hunter is a great 5-man dungeon tank. It has mobility, great AoE damage, and as a result, good self-healing. It also has good crowd control through its various sigils, and it excels in tanking and doing damage in bursts, which in the case of dungeons, this would be trash pack to trash pack. The problem is that most of these strengths that the tank has are lost when in a progress raiding scenario, where you are just facing, for example, a boss. Outside of Demon Spike's active mitigation, which only reduces physical damage, or cooldowns, the Demon Hunter feels vulnerable, and this is not a good situation to be in on long fights. In terms of raiding, I feel as if the Demon Hunter might need a further defensive buff outside of its active mitigation. However, this would be difficult for Blizzard considering that in terms of dungeons, the Demon Hunter is actually already a strong pick. So, alongside Demon Hunter, we have the Monk. Now, I feel as if the Monk is in a similar situation to Demon Hunter, guys. It's really good at short burst tanking due to how stagger works, and short term they can prevent and smooth a lot of damage. However, when it comes to tanking long fights in raids, it becomes much harder to smooth the damage, and it can be hard to keep up with the brews, and to be honest, they just aren't as effective as the other tanks available. In the middle tier, we have Death Knight. I played a lot of Death Knight in the Legion beta, and it was in a pretty good place. In terms of DPS, it performed really well on raid testing and seemed pretty solid tank-wise. Towards the end of the beta, Bone Shield took a nerf to where it is today, 16% instead of the 20%. And in my opinion, this nerf was just too much. This combined with some damage nerfs and a class that became a possible top spot contender just fell a little bit short. Don't get me wrong though, Death Knight DPS is still strong, and this is one of the big draws to the class as tank damage is important during progress where every small percentage counts. However, looking at Death Knight's damage mitigation, while it is constant through Bone Shield, it doesn't measure up to that of the other tank options such as Guardian Druid, Iron Fur, Paladin, Shield of the Righteous, or Warrior Ignore Pain. The other half of Death Knight is its self-healing, and while strong, it is a reactive ability rather than proactive, and on cutting edge raiding content, this is not favourable. I used to see Death Knight as the high DPS, low survivability, but still a top pick option, but as mentioned with the beta changes and other tank classes having closed the gap in DPS, I just don't see it as a top tier for progress anymore. Okay guys, that leaves us with the final and top tier. We're looking at Druid, Warrior, and Paladin. I'd be expecting most top or progress raiding guilds to be using 2 out of 3 of these tank classes, so let's jump right into it with looking at the Druid. Druid tanks are incredibly strong for progress raiding. They have smooth and consistent damage intake with a powerful and straightforward active mitigation system with no charges. They have the benefit of choices. They can reduce physical or spell damage or choose to heal. Combine this with lots of cooldowns such as Barkskin, Survival Instincts, and a very strong Artifact ability that provides a further cooldown, and you have a rock solid tank. They are in essence the perfect progress tank. It's worth noting as well that in terms of legendaries, Guardian Druid has a lot of good possibilities. 4 out of 8 or half of the legendaries would be a good pickup compared to the other classes mostly having only 2 out of 8 being good. So the probability of getting a good legendary is much higher. My only downside for Druid is that the single target damage seems to be a bit lower than other tank options, and as previously mentioned, tank damage can be important on progress where every percentage counts. Guardian Druids were by far the strongest tank when Legion was in alpha and then beta stages, and while they have been nerfed on occasion since then, they still come out as the tier 1 tank, and if not the king of all tanks for progress rating. Looking at Warrior, do I need to say anything else other than Ignore Pain, guys? Ignore Pain is a large absorb shield that you can stack into the millions. When you combine them with shield block, Warrior is able to mitigate a lot of damage, and as the new rage system means you take rage from taking damage, Ignore Pain is something you nearly always have up when tanking bosses. Warriors have a good artifact tree that lets them further increase the strength of Ignore Pain and boosting the DPS, which right now is looking pretty solid in regards to tanks overall. Perhaps not the highest, but also not the lowest. Talking about artifacts, I personally am not a fan of the channeled artifact ability, and I feel as if it has greater strength in dungeons rather than raids. And taking that into account, and also looking at the length of some of the warrior cooldowns, in the form of, for example, Last Stand and Shield Wall, 3 minutes and 4 minutes respectively, we have to be thankful that as a base unit, Warrior is strong. Warriors can additionally offer good support in raids via intercepting the main tank when off-tanking. This provides both rage and tank damage reduction, and the talent Inspiring Presence is also a nice addition to the raid on certain fights. Overall, Warrior is in a strong place for the first raid tier this expansion, and much stronger than it has been in the past. And finally guys, let's look at Paladin. Paladin's strengths and weaknesses originate from the same source, cooldowns. When you have cooldowns up, such as Shield of the Righteous, Paladins are extremely strong with big damage reduction. However, if you find yourself in a situation without cooldowns, you become very vulnerable. As a Paladin, you need to play both calculated and often conservative. If you pop too many cooldowns at the same time, for example overlapping Truth Guard and Shield of the Righteous, then you might find yourself in trouble. Paladin can definitely seem quite daunting to start with at lower gear levels in comparison to other tanks such as Warrior, but once you get some haste, which allows more uptime and cooldowns such as the Shield of the Righteous, you'll be quick to realize how solid Paladin tanks really are right now. Light of the Protector is a really strong heal, and if talented, Hand of the Protector also offers some interesting healing support when off-tanking to either the other tank or raid members. Alongside this, Paladins also offer some potentially good raid utility through other means, such as blessings, and certain talents in the tree that might find their way into use in the Emerald Nightmare. Like Druids, they also have a strong artifact ability, and in terms of DPS, Paladins right now feel pretty good. They are among the highest burst damage from tanks options, so that's definitely something to be happy about. So there we go guys, that's pretty much my thoughts on the tanks for Legion raiding, the first tier, Emerald Nightmare. I hope you guys have found this video useful, and thanks for watching, and see you guys on stream.